A very good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Wonderful meeting, Siddharth, Sanjay, Nisha. For the first time in the history of mankind, every country, every student, and every educator in the world are facing the same problem. Educators in India always thought that schools are the temples of learning, and teachers are the gurus who are the only source of knowledge and would transfer the same to their students. From being the sage on the stage and guide on the side, today's teachers have done a commendable job and progress to learning together with their students. Access to internet has given access to worldwide knowledge, shrinking the world to a single huge classroom. Thanks to COVID-19, education today has catapulted into a whole new dimension. It has tremendously increased the technological capabilities of all the stakeholders, made the educational institutions upgrade their infrastructure to support virtual learning, and made governments sit up and prioritize development of internet facilities for education. While it was always expected to happen gradually, coronavirus has made a 10-year development happen in a short span of time. In light of this paradigm shift, the most pertinent and fundamental question that is being asked today is, has education today become borderless? Is learning really limited to classroom? Ladies and gentlemen, I am Pradipto, and I have a team of very, very experienced panelists with me. They're doing excellent in their respective area of work. I do have Nisha Bakar, I do have Mr. Siddharth, as well as Mr. Sanjay. Now, I would like to ask a question to my fellow panelists, and I would like to each one of you to reflect on it and answer to that particular question. The question will remain the same. But at the same time, before you answer the question, if it will be really good if you could briefly introduce yourself. So I just want it to happen by you. Now, the question that I feel is most apt at this particular occasion is, as a school leader, as an educator, what are your views on education now? Is borderless, limitless, and accessible to all? Nisha, what do you feel about it?
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much, Ravi, for this platform. It's always a pleasure to be here with Ravi. I've been listening to the conversation morning as well as yesterday, and now we're all here. So I have been into the field of education for about over a decade, over 2 decades. Been privileged to work with some of the finest managements across the country, whether it was Gurgaon, Hyderabad, or down south in Nellore and Jaipur as well. So now I'm taking a little bit of a break and then figuring out what next for me and while this came up. So it's interesting to be here, part of the panelists.
Great.
So coming over to your question, well, I think there's I think overhyping the whole thing of the pandemic. I'm not trying to say that it has not created those opportunities for all of us, or it has not created that impact. We all are feeling the impact. But in the field of education, I would say that there were a lot of schools which were doing limitless education. There were schools which were doing, teaching beyond classrooms as well. So it's a lot to do with the individual sitting on the chair, I guess, and what they believe in. So yes, definitely with the pandemic, I would say that it has forced all of us now to think about it and reconsider. And there is no chance that any one of us can say that, we don't want to even talk about it. So definitely it has made it borderless. I mean, we were not so great and comfortable doing online courses, and look here, we're sitting down and discussing policies and issues, and classes are being conducted. But it also depends on which age group that you fall in and which segment of the society that you come from. So we had 3 schools down south, and 2 of them were for the underprivileged, where we did not even have an access to a smartphone as well. So I don't know whether it was borderless or not out there, or whether it was seamless or not, because education was just not happening. So it's also society or a privileged city or a privileged with finances, then definitely it has opened up gates for anybody and everybody sitting anywhere and doing a great course. It is definitely a question that I personally feel that that physical space where you are with a learner, and especially in schools, is something that is something that one needs to consider as well, and which one all of us miss. But having said that, yes, definitely it has opened up great avenues, great opportunities for someone who wants to do it forward. But one will also have to be mindful of the so-called the digital divide, the word that we're so commonly using now, which has come into play, because it is huge, and it has made things really bad for a lot of children, a large segment of children. And we unfortunately or fortunately had to see that on the ground, and which really made me think that having worked with all the privileged schools, there is a large segment which does not even have an access, whether it is a pandemic or not a pandemic, it does not even have an access to the basics of education as well.
Correct.
So I think I'd leave it there. Yeah.
Okay. So that's quite a good way of expressing your views. And I think so you could, I mean, that's quite a valid point which you mentioned, that though there are a number of avenues, but we don't even know exactly how all the kids are taking this up, isn't it? So, and whether all the students are able to use the online platform in a proper way at all or not.
Yeah.
Okay. Now taking it forward to Sanjay. Sanjay, what do you feel about the question that I had asked earlier to Nisha? And if you could kindly introduce yourself also simultaneously.
All right, Pradipta, first, as Nisha mentioned, that the results of the pandemic are going to be very varied on different sections of the society. Because if you look at it, the response from different segments has been very, very varied. And as for the third point, the accessibility, we have already debated about the digital divide for quite a long time now, and also doing justice to it. So coming from what I would call a tier 2 or tier 3 city like Udaipur, we have had students who have had access, and we have also had, because we are a very, very inclusive school, the palace organizations, the charitable foundation which I represent, they are not a very choosy society in terms of who they are taking in. It's an inclusive in the truly sense of word, and it came out to the fore when there were students who said that I do not have accessibility in my village because he comes from the hinterland. There is a student who comes from a place where he's gone due to the pandemic, leaving the hostel, and now says, I don't have accessibility. There are no accessibility. There are no towers. The quality of the smartphone's not good. Laptop is out of the question. So as for the introduction, I think this is the best introduction that I could give, that we are a truly inclusive charitable foundation effort. We have one school within the ramparts of the city palace of Udaipur, which is Maharana Mewar Public School. We have another location which has just become a CBSE school, which is Maharana Mewar Vidya Mandir, 2.5 kilometers the crow flies. And I look after these 2 schools as of now. Now, coming to borderless, I always like to have a look at the topic before we talk in terms of what the hardcore definition says. And if you look at borderless, it encompasses 4 things in it. It talks about online training teaching, offshore campuses, technology-assisted teaching, and franchising of curricula. And the objective of this method is to provide a platform to maximize potential and performance of people across the globe through multidimensional and multi-level interactions. Now, if you look at these 4 aspects of borderless learning, you realize that it is not something which is pandemic, as Nisha rightly said. It is not pandemic. Genesis is not in pandemic. It is something that has been there and is likely to stay for a long time after this crisis is over. So we have to look at borderless in its truest form of providing opportunities to children right from, there was a time when Schumacher wrote about act local and think global, you will have to still apply that. You will have children from all sorts of backgrounds who would get more and more exposed to the wider world. Borderless education would come into force, but then how to utilize is going to be the biggest challenge. As far as the limitlessness of it is concerned, you've got to understand that there'll be multiple sources of learning that would be available. Now, again, the challenge there is that YouTube does not recognize the user. So while on one hand, you will have the advantage of children producing projects which are beyond their years, as we expect them. We have this habit of tagging people as class 2, age appropriate, and all those things. So this limitlessness is going to again be a major factor where children are going to produce works which you and I would look at and say, wow, this is something beyond the years. So I think that limitlessness again is a boon, but then it will have to be controlled. So that's my take on the first 3 points. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. So you feel, Sanjay, that it helped the students also to some extent, maybe for not everyone, and their imagination power went beyond what otherwise they must have thought about. Am I correct? Isn't it?
It's made the playing field very, very even. It has got nothing to do with age. It's got nothing to do. Anybody with a smartphone is as good as another, depending on your effort.
Wonderful. Great. Okay. Taking it forward to Siddharth. Siddharth, what do you have to tell us about on the same question that has been addressed earlier?
So, firstly, thanks to Ravi for organizing this dialogue. I think this is a great time to have this dialogue. Thanks to ScooNews. To coming to the question at hand, Pradeepta. I would say that learning is happening everywhere, right? Learning is never happening within the classroom. Every experience the child has, everything the child goes through in daily life, learning is definitely happening. So learning in its essence, in its true nature, is absolutely borderless. Learning is not restrictive of the curriculum, not restrictive of the textbooks, not restrictive of the classroom. And we need to understand that we need to understand that a child, if you look at a newborn, I have a 6-month-old. Okay, so if you look at a newborn, a child is always curious, a child is always looking. If you hand over something which is alien to that child is always looking to explore, taste it, touch it, feel it. And so learning, I feel, in its truest essence, is absolutely borderless. Coming to the point of the digital divide that Nisha and Sanjay ji spoke about, I think that is absolutely there, and it's a pity, but and I wouldn't be in the best possible place to say that how are we equipped to handle that digital divide. But yes, absolutely, the pandemic has actually really reinforced. And NEP coming in at this time has actually boosted the need of this borderless education, right? So there's a lot of saying, there's this saying that never waste a crisis. I think the Indian education people, for the first time, has really used this crisis, created through the pandemic, in a really, really positive manner, whether knowingly or unknowingly, I'm not aware, but it's really created that sort of a boost in the education space that we really need to rethink learning and what actually is learning. So I think I would stop there. I would also say that learning, the role of the teacher and learning in itself has changed a little bit during the pandemic, and it's really important that the teacher, for the learning to be borderless, the teacher is also looked as a learner, and I think that is also very, very important.
I think so, Siddharth. That's quite a valid point. And I think so. So all of us, all Siddharth, Sanjay and Nisha will agree to this, that even for the teachers also, it has become a borderless, because teachers, those who were quite, had a block about going into learning more and more technology, using technology in classroom and all, they have also gone beyond the limit, and they have tried to incorporate technology as much as possible in the classroom within the past 1 year almost, right? So it is a learning for the students, for the teachers, as well as for all of us, I would say. So, okay, fine. That's a great thing that I got to know, as well as I'm sure everyone got to know from our panelists today. Now, taking the points forward, I would like to ask Nisha a question, which I felt that it will be quite a important one for today's educators. As an educator, do you think that pedagogies like online education, offshore campus, building less school, technology assisted teaching, which aim at maximizing the potential and performance of educators and students across the globe, will suddenly open up the opportunities for capable children from Indian villages at their dream universities like Harvard and Stanford, as time and distance no longer matter? What do you feel about it, Nisha?
Okay, so I'll go back to my experience that I had in the last 3 years of working with that segment of the society where I'd never worked.
Okay.
And having said that, working with an organization that had ample amount of money to support these children, and yet we felt that it was difficult because see, it requires an entire ecosystem to be created. It can't just be that you train the teacher and you put her in place. It'll sort out the issues. No, because it requires everything to be done for a child to be able to reach out to wherever he wants to, or to leverage his entire potential. So I would say that I think I was fortunate enough to work with teachers who were amazing, who were just simply amazing. And we had three different set of schools. One was a CBSE residential school for underprivileged. One was a state board Andhra school for the underprivileged. And there was a third school, which was a CBSE for the city of Nellore, which is a 3-tier city. And I got to see, very different kind of segments of the society and children coming from different walks of life. And the training imparted to all the teachers of the three schools was more or less similar. So I would say that from a teacher's point of view, yes, there was a complete initiative of making it borderless, seamless, and help the child reach his full potential. But having said that, there were a lot of children who could not do that. But at the same time, in the other school that we had, the CBSE school, which was for the privileged children, this wasn't really a barrier. Like what Mr. Siddharth also just pointed out, that it really wasn't a barrier at all, and children were able to do stuff in coding and things like apprehensive, that would a 3-tier child be able to do these so-called courses, which we assume would only be a city child would manage probably. And we tried it out very hesitantly, I must say, but I realized that those children really did amazing stuff. Whether it was platforms like MUN, where they were coming in for the first time, coming from small cities and interacting with children of larger cities, they really performed very well. Whether it was a digital based technology based workshop like a coding, where we had enrolled a lot of them, and they really flourished well. And then even at an individual level, the interest that children came in and they jumped into, and then the kind of stuff that they were coming back to us, that I did this, and we were really encouraging that. But at the same time, on the other side, I saw that and the underprivileged kids that I'm talking about are fabulous. They're extremely intelligent, eager to do it, eager to learn, and yet we could not achieve as much as we achieved here. So the whole thing was that you provide a child with a a good ecosystem in the school, because it's a residential school. But unfortunately, right now the child was back home, where he doesn't even have electricity. He doesn't have the internet connection. Paying the internet connection bill becomes an issue for the parent, and the child is left without a phone because there's only one phone in the family. So I would say that yes, I'm not trying to sound too negative or too that this is not really created. It is a great opportunity for children across the country, across the world, to really leverage. The point is, are we creating a right ecosystem for them? as a school, as a management, and as a parent community, because these are the three stakeholders who really need to come together to be able to give that push to the child. So I would say it's not so much on the child, it's more on all the other stakeholders who need to come forward to do, and that takes a lot, because you see, telling a parent of a rural society that this would be important or your child is capable of XYZ is not always that easy, because we struggle with it even in big cities where we assume that parents are exposed. And I'm also talking about a city like Hyderabad, where we were dealing with there is a certain mindset, there is a certain block in the head, and it was an international curriculum. And still, I realized, so that it was a lot of learning for me also, not just with the pandemic, even otherwise, that cracking it up with the parent community is not always easy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if all of that happens, then I would say yes. It is a crisis where a lot can be leveraged, and a lot of us are doing. A lot of schools and many children are really performing and doing stuff which we never assumed or thought, and teachers have really done such a fabulous job. So I think yes, it definitely is an opportunity, provided we take it on and make it larger. Yeah.
I'm sure it will happen.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sure about it. But that's a very good way that you've given a comparison to us about a school which was underprivileged, as well as a CBSE school, as well as another international school. So we get a clear demarcation about what are the advantages that each of the schools were getting, and how could they leverage on what are the facilities that they could be given. So thank you, Nisha, for sharing your views. Now, our next question goes to Sanjay. Sanjay, I would like to ask you, with tech giants like Amazon, Google, Tesla hiring people without college degrees, but just based on capability of doing work, the relevance of a certificate is becoming lesser compared to the real learning of the student. Do you think that this approach puts the onus on students' aptitude and ability to learn rather than the certificate that he would get? Will this change the current learning systems forever?
Pradipta, I feel that the importance of the certificate is never going to go out, because there is a certain benchmarking which is involved.
Correct.
So across the world, before you even bring somebody to the stage where you test them for their skills, typically you ask for their CV, which gives you an idea of what are the places that the student has been to.
Correct.
Moreover, as far as the skills are concerned, if you look at these jobs that you mentioned in the companies that you just talked about, these are not exactly skills which are of a higher order. At the entry level, yes, they give you jobs with limited skills, and immediately it helps a kid to get their first job. But after that, in the long run, you realize that the students who have done courses which appeal to their hearts, which skill them better, and are mostly now, if you look at it, are mostly the courses which have another opportunity for the learner to go back and upgrade the skills.
Correct.
It is those courses which are producing high achievers in the long run. So I would say that for jobs that do not require too many skills, I mean, you look at kids, they talk about SEOs as if they're all experts on the search engine operations. If they learn the keywords, I just got a lecture from a student who passed out 3 years ago as to what I should be doing to have my website better visible. Now I said, son, I've been hearing this for a long time. Okay, please cast some more light on it. And the keywords, or the taglines and the hashtags, well, it's all very fine. I do understand the enthusiasm of a kid at that age to be able to understand what will give more hits and scores to a particular website.
Correct.
But then when you become a website developer, and then when you go on to have a company, which you do, it would be somebody who has gone through a proper education system, a certification, which has not only given them the skills required right then, but also prepared them for acquiring skills of the future. Because there is a certain way of thinking that has to come in place when they start off for a career. So that the endless debate between a job and a career, I think, gets settled by the time you're in the 5th year or the 10th year of your career.
I
So
agree.
I guess that yes, it is definitely Amazon, Google, Tesla hiring guys is a great thing. You have seen these huge floors of youngsters sitting in Hyderabad, the nerds of yesteryears now coming of age. But then who is driving them? The pyramid gets narrower and narrower and narrower.
Correct.
So that's
Absolutely.
yeah.
I agree. Actually, even in our country also, because since I am into a teacher's professional development center, and we notice that whoever comes, first of all, talks about the certification. So, and certificate is such an important for them, but why they ask for it, because I think so might be in order to get a better recognition. But at times, even without the certification also, we do see that people are really great teachers. May not be they are having a certificate from a reputed organization, but their teaching ability is just unimaginable. um, uh, okay, so now I take this the next question to Siddharth. Siddharth, what do you think that today's educators do to move out of authoritarian, teacher-centric approach to become facilitators, scaffolding student learning? They're expected to develop student-centered behaviors, attitudes, and carefully orchestrate lessons to cater for the learning needs of individual students inside and beyond classrooms. Siddharth, are you there? Yeah.
Yeah. So absolutely, Pradipta. I think first, all of us need to understand that it is really, really important that as educators, the time has come for personalized learning, right? And it is important that the teacher in the class really understands this, that where is the current knowledge structures of the student, so where is each child at, right? And that is from, so once you know that where is the starting point of the child, that is when you will be able to build newer bridges of knowledge. And I think that is the point where personalization comes in. That is the point where there's so much of hype about differentiated learning and differentiating the curriculum, maybe on content, process, or many other things. And the way you talk about that, making that shift from the teacher centric classroom to the student centric classroom, I think it is more about the attitude and the environment. And when there's so much of talk about the growth mindset and the fixed mindset, and so the teacher's mindset here is something that really needs to be attacked upon. And we have to move towards, every teacher, every educator needs to move towards having that growth mindset, and realizing that this is where my fixed mindset lies. If I, as a school leader, everyone has fixed and growth mindset in various prospects, right? So if I realize that I have a fixed mindset in certain things, and then I go out to develop that growth mindset, I think that is when the learning will shift from teacher centered to student centered. There's another thing that especially in the traditional Indian classrooms, when I'm a keen math is a really it's a love of mine. So whenever you do a math question in the classroom, and the teacher always appreciates the first person who answers that question, right? That essentially tells that, okay, math mein jaldi jo kar raha hai, that speed is important, right? So those sort of things need to be done away with. Some things like mistakes, they need to be celebratory. So we've got to, and not just in the classroom, at the school system also, the principal or the management needs to accept that, okay, mistakes can happen, and use it as learning opportunities. I think these are some smaller little thinks if we are able to do these things, we actually move from that teacher centered to a student centered, and it is more of the mindset and the environment rather than anything else. That's what I feel.
Pradipta,
Wonderful. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we have
Please.
news coming in now that Education Ministry postpones Class 12 CBSE board exams, will review situation on June 1 to decide fresh dates. Class
Oh,
10
Oh my
CBSE
God.
board exam cancelled.
Oh my
oh
God.
my God. So that was,
That is where adaptation comes into play.
yes, absolutely. I mean, it's a difficult scenario for the students also. I mean, we feel pity for them. But anyway, we have to see what the condition is,
No,
and
but
we have to.
as we were talking at the beginning when we were having an informal chat, that this was very much likely. Looking at the number of cases you have, you really can't risk children coming to. And what we are talking about, that we will have to revamp practically everything in education system, from
Correct,
teaching to
correct.
assessment. I think it's time that we now start having new forms of assessment,
Very
much
true.
more flexible systems. You can't just have. Earlier, we used to have the July opening of schools. So it used to be bang, 1st July, everybody back from their
Correct,
wherever they had gone for holidays.
correct.
And suddenly, then we had the April session coming in. And now, we tend to get fixed in these things. And we
Correct.
consider them as, they should happen. So come March, we all expect exams to happen. I mean, give them a couple of months here and there, and maybe even consider having 2 exams in a year. Why only one? Because at the time of annuals, a lot of people are not able to appear or appear semi-prepared because of various psychological or
Very true.
physical or family-related issues.
Mm.
And now, it's no more just one kid affected by COVID; it's entire families. So
Absolutely.
you are affected by an illness of your grandparent, your parents, either side, friends.
Correct.
You never
Correct.
know. So I
Correct.
think we'll all have to prove what we have been talking about, that everything is
Absolutely.
adapting.
I agree, Sanjay. I completely agree with that.
Maybe it's time to rethink how universities take admission. Maybe
That is very
without just
important.
marks, maybe it's time to rethink how we take up admissions,
Yeah,
and I think that
Very.
would be a much needed reform.
yeah. Siddharth, I've already had my students come and discuss with me that, one LOR is not good enough, and they're not waiting for class 12 results anymore while they're interviewing them, which is itself a new thing. Interview for college admission online. They're
Right.
considering their class 9, their 10, their 11 marks. They're not waiting for class 12 results. So I
Yeah,
think it's time.
but
Yeah.
in the end, they do consider the 12th as well.
Yes,
Kind
that's
of-
the
Yes.
final thing
That's
that comes in.
that's a problem. And the point is, I think changes can't happen so fast. It'll have to be very gradual because the entire system has to change and flow with it.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes, and I think here the question is not about postponing the exams. The situation was similar. We all knew it. So why would you allow children to go through that stress which has been happening since Jan? I mean, these decisions could have been taken at the right time, and we have enough experts sitting up there to talk. Why at right when you're at the not even the 11th hour, the 12th hour? That is what is a little
Absolutely.
upsetting to the children and families. Because how long can you go on stretching it and with an indefinite answer or an indefinite period?
And
There
the
needs to be a certain decision.
Very
Yeah.
true. And the students are not very sure also, even for the international curriculum, also the exams are supposed to start in another fortnight. So, the students are in two minds. Am I going to give the exam or am I not? I mean, we don't have a exact answer also whether the program has been cancelled, exams have been cancelled completely or not. But it is a very dicey situation for the kids. I mean, we really feel pity for them. Okay, so now taking it forward, I mean, it's really, really interesting and to know about so many things from each one of you. Thank you so much, Nisha, Siddharth, and Sanjay. Going to the next round of questions, Nisha, can I just ask you, NEP 2020 is a milestone in India's journey to becoming a knowledge superpower. So NEP 2020 also lays a lot of emphasis on technology integration in learning. Do you think that the need for borderless education beyond classrooms will support India's dream of becoming knowledge superpowers? What is your take on that?
So I think NEP 2020 is one topic which has been debated and discussed and deliberated so much.
I get it.
So
Yeah, very
I
true.
think, yes, so my take on it first, and before I move on, is that, it's not as if things have suddenly become very dynamic and, progressive with this NEP 2020. There were a lot of other similar things being talked about even earlier, and there were many schools which were doing a fabulous job even without the NEP coming in. But yes, having said that, now since I think, and I think it just happened at the right time when technology has really taken over. So we all are talking about it and connecting and getting to understand each other, which otherwise would just be one phone call to maybe your friend, colleague, or somebody.
Correct.
So there, I think it's getting more attention. It's being deliberated more than any other document that has ever been. So, having said that, India has always had the potential. It's not as if India doesn't have the potential. But India has the potential in small pockets and small segments.
Correct.
The fun would be, or the magic would be that, if we really want to see India as a knowledge hub, which even the NEP is talking about, that, come here, set up your universities here. And yesterday, like the whole thing was, is it even important for children to go abroad and study? So, but the point is now, as a parent, my son studies abroad. And it was a very conscious choice of putting him abroad and not here in India when he scored admission in some of the top universities and colleges of the country and the course that he wanted to do. But I chose, even when I had him repeat his first year. So because the first year he couldn't go in because of, go back, repeat your year, but go abroad and do. So the reason was basically that in India, again, what I was talking about earlier is that you don't have the ecosystem. We may talk about it, but in practice, it does not get implemented. So while he's doing a computer science engineering, he has to do 19, 20 papers, and he's perpetually taking exams, and he's perpetually stressed about it. And most of the papers don't make sense. And he comes and tells me that, why should I do yoga? Why should I do EVS when I'm doing my engineering course? This does not happen abroad. Second, the kind of interactions that they really, the way they treat children, which is very, very different from the way Indians would treat children. Then it is even the mindset, the kind of courses, the kind of exposure, the availability of resources. Now, if all that happens here in India, definitely India is going to be up on the world stage. But the point is, are we working towards that? That needs to be concentrated and done. Some individual private universities are doing a fabulous job. We need to set that up also. Just setting up an IT or an IM in some area is not going to make it work, because it's all about people. It's all about the resources. Absolutely. And if you don't put in the right resources, obviously it's not going to take on just because it has a name.
Correct.
So while I totally agree that India has great potential, I totally agree that it was not just the NEP. Now, India always had the potential because of certain systems and traditionally in our societies. But at the same time, there is a lack of resources. There's a lack of concentration of resources. They are too scattered. The awareness is not there. So I think all of that put together, and if you're able to do that, I think it'll be a great place for students to come and study as well. And people like us will not have to spend so much of money sending their children out. So yes, definitely.
I agree. But as correctly said by you, mentioned by you, that there are some of the private universities that has come up in India now. They are doing a fabulous work. They are almost doing at par work with what some of the universities overseas are doing. So things are taken care of, but it will be really, really good if our the other universities also do more or less of the same type of work, so that the students get more interested in studying the subjects, the choice of their subject. That is the best part. Because over here, I think so, if I'm a mechanical engineering student and I'm interested into doing theater also at the same time, I don't have the opportunity in other universities, but in private universities, we might be. But overseas, yes, they do have that opportunity. So why do we not give our students who has the greatest potential, I mean, who has the best of the potentials of all other childs, I would say, give this opportunity and make them the best and stay them out in our country itself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sanjay, the next question goes to you. Though I took a little long time to frame this question, you need to be very careful about what I am asking. Uh, NEP talks about global pedagogies such as experiential learning, competency-based approach, storytelling, toy-based pedagogy, case studies, and hands-on experience. Today's children have to face common problems like environmental distress, calamities like COVID, etc. Now, the opportunity of global learning through virtual exchanges, virtual visits to places like NASA, collaboration with global student community, access to best educators across the globe, learning from the best practices across the globe is possible now due to advanced technology. Now, Sanjay, could you please enlighten us with an answer to this particular question? How easy or difficult do you think it is for students to leverage these opportunities? Sanjay, are you there? Hello? Hello?
The hostel boys were already celebrating the news, so I had to mute Okay. Now, Pradipta, when you look at these technologies that are coming, I broadly categorize them into two kind of packages. Now, under them have what you will, the apps, the platform itself, Google, So one is anything that is structured for education, dedicated. I mean, you have a Hangout and you have a Google Classroom.
Absolutely.
Right? So you have two ways to go. Likewise, you have apps that are given out. Some are educational in nature, and others are apps which are created for learning, but they are created by people who don't strictly want to follow any pattern of learning of college, university, school, degree, or whatever.
Got it.
So, there are packages which are available, which are very well structured, and they have very clear instructions given in them. They are according to the age as well. And as I keep saying, they are sometimes not, they are not bound to age. So if children or students follow these, they are able to exploit it to the best. I mean, I have seen grade 3 kids come out with fabulous presentations because they have a template, they have information that they have to put in there. There are subtopics in which they can put it. And when the presentation begins, they sound so mature that you wonder where this learning is coming from. Are they all child prodigies? Are they all, they become suddenly so wise? How come they're using terminologies which you are accustomed to hearing only from the mouths of grown-ups? But then you realize that is where they're taking their information from.
Correct.
I think one mistake we have been making, Pradipta, throughout our, when we were growing up was talk to kids in some kind of gibberish, Not all kids lisp when they talk.
Absolutely.
So talking to them, imagining that, the child cannot speak straight is a mistake that we have been making, not kids. They may not be of the same height as you and I at a certain age. But to say that their brains are not developed to use a certain language is a mistake.
Correct.
So when it comes to leveraging, when you give them, this is what I have seen over the last 1 year, both at home and outside, that when you give them a structured way of using the technology, they are able to leverage it as good as anybody else. I mean, when you talk about NASA, they can sit at home and master a 747 Boeing cockpit.
Absolutely, very true.
And you keep getting videos about how somebody landed a plane without, having flown it a day.
Correct.
So I think, you see these YouTubes,
Correct.
a kid surprised the crew when he demanded to go into a cockpit, and the kind of questions he asked, flummoxed the crew.
Absolutely.
So I think in both scenarios, kids are able to leverage it. Where it is for education, there they are able to do it perfectly well, and you have the desired result. The other side may give you results beyond their age and years, or it could also lead to utter confusion. And uh, as I say that I mean, there is an Armageddon. There's a movie. I've been a big fan of action movies. So in Armageddon, you have this guy looking at the drilling machine and saying that well, you've done this, but you have done a completely, and I can't use the word, job of it. So he says, "How I'm an MIT graduate. You stole my design, but you didn't know how to put it right." So those kind of learnings, and jokes about nerds and kids and the hackers coming together, well, they'll always be part of the YouTube underground movement, the darknet. But then all I can say is that leveraging it is concerned, I'm sure that these kids are perfectly up to it, and they are actually doing it day in and day out in the presentations that they are submitting to you on a daily basis.
Absolutely. I do completely agree to it. I mean, they really go out of the box, think out of the box, and they make us quite puzzled actually at times with the work that they come up with. So there only we can say that learning really goes beyond the border. What our expectation level is, it goes much, much beyond that. My next question goes to Siddharth. Siddharth, is global learning suited to Indian context in current situation? There is a lot of difference in the learning process, beliefs, culture, views, and attitudes, content as it is contextual. The whole learning experience could be different for students from what would have had in their own social and cultural context inside their classrooms. What is your take on this, Siddharth?
Absolutely. So, Pradipta, I feel that learning as a process is the same for everybody. Whether it's a person in India or an American citizen or someone in Pakistan, the process is very similar. If you look at the definition of learning and how we learn, the process is very similar. The context is different and should be different. And there's a lot of brain research that also shares that when the context is taken into account while in the teaching learning process, as an educator, you're actually teaching to both sides of the brain. And so I think context is very, very important. Also, I will again refer to the NEP and also the current movement in the education space about global citizenship. And, the UNESCO also talks about global citizenship. And so it is important that we also look at internationalization. So we need to understand the local context as well as the global context and see what are our similarities and differences, and what is similar between an Indian child and an American child, or maybe someone in the UK. So the students need to understand that. Also, this is in the larger, it is beneficial in the larger context because as students grow up, it is the roles of the society and the school to actually, teach them to coexist peacefully in the world. So it's important to understand the local as well as, the global context. Also, when we talk about taking learning borderless and we talk about connecting the local to the global context, it is also important that we understand the importance of self-directed learning, and we understand that how the NEP also talks about we need to teach children how to learn. I think that is something which is very, very important, that if we are able to create a society of self-directed learners, if we see the work of Yong Liu and a few others, wherein so I think that is something. If we are able to create a society of self-directed learners, I think learning will truly become borderless, and technology would also drive that borderless learning.
Great. Thank you, Siddharth. I think so. Time is really running fast. So, let us just come towards the concluding remark. What would your take be if the world become today's classroom and the education becomes truly borderless, where students are learning on their own from anyone, from anywhere in the world, on any device of their choice, at any time that is convenient for them to learn? Nisha, can you kindly give your concluding remark to the educators, just in one sentence if possible?
I don't know to the educators, but I definitely want to be alive when this happens. I wish I could be a student as well. And that I think the onus lies on the education community to take it forward. And we are privileged that we play that role. And I think we should really take it seriously, very consciously move towards that. And I think that would be fabulous. That would just be fabulous.
Great, great. Thanks a ton. Sanjay, can you please throw some light on that?
Yeah, I feel that this is something which has already happened. The challenge is for the education industry as to how do we structure it and leverage it to the best of for the best benefit of the students and for education institutions in the future.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Siddharth, your concluding remark, please.
So, Pradipta, if what you're saying becomes true, I feel people will be learning for the love of learning and not for anything else, not for the certification, not for the grades, and not for anything else, but for the love of learning. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, panelists. And a special thank to Ravi and ScooNews to create such a wonderful platform for us to discuss on this wonderful topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Nice chat this afternoon. Yep.
Thank you.
We are all set to start our final roundtable today. Thank you very much, Pradipta, Nisha, Sanjay sir, Siddharth, everyone, and we'll see you on the other side.
So, Ravi,
thank you so much.
Did your prediction come true in the middle of the thing?
And thank you for picking it up. I mean, that also shows that you were less attentive to the panel and more attentive. Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. And
Thank you, Pradipta, Sanjay. Thank you.
Everyone.
There's more of situational awareness going into it. Bye.
Certainly.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you once again.
Bye.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, Harish sir, Kulkarni sir, Vasudha, and Siddharth. Hey.
Hi.
I hope you all have got the news of the board exams being cancelled for 10th and postponement, and I'm pretty sure you could start with that. But thank you very much, everyone, for taking up the time. This is the final roundtable for the day. And over to you, Vasudha.
Ma'am, you are on mute. Vasudha, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, Ravi, can we start?
Sure, ma'am.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. So, good afternoon to all the panelists. Good afternoon, General Kulkarni. Good afternoon, Sanduja sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Siddharth. Pleasure to have you on the panel. Yes, before I move on to introducing the esteemed panelist, I am Dr. Vasudha Neelmani, Principal, Rockwoods International School, Udaipur. And I have been with the school for past 3 years, but yes, in this sphere of education for past 28 years now, and out of that 18 years completely into Cambridge. So today's topic is very, very interesting, inspiring. That is talking about collaborative learning and how can students have best of both worlds. Thank you, Mr. Ravi Santlani, for giving us the opportunity and hosting this wonderful event. Now, before I move on to introduce my panelists, I would also like to have their views. I will be introducing them one by one. So, and of course, the first thing that we will discuss is on the cancellation of the board examinations of grade 10 and of course, the postponement of grade 12. So in no particular order, I will start being a little biased, but I will start with my favorite panelist to introduce him first. Lieutenant General Suren Kulkarni, Director, Mayo College, Ajmer. Lieutenant General Suren Kulkarni has served in the Indian Army for about 4 decades. Parallel to his army career, he has pursued his academic interest. He has an economics graduate from Ferguson College, Pune. He was a postgraduate UGC Merit Scholar before he joined the army. He has 4 master's degree, including an MPhil degree too. He's an alumnus of Mayo College, Ajmer. Presently, he's the director of his alma mater. He's also the regional trustee of the Round Square organization for the South Asia and Gulf region. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Now I would like to introduce and welcome Mr. Harish Sanduja. He's been the director of Seth Anandram Jaipuria School since 2019. In the past, he has held the position of principal cum director of Sai International School and director of Sai International Residential School. He has been exposed to various boards like CBSE, ICSE, and IB. He has been a teacher, trainer, and has conducted many workshops for CBSE. In his career span of around 25 years, he has been instrumental in establishing various leadership courses and platforms for developing student potential and creativity. He has been exposed to the British and Australian education system, apart from the education domain in the Indian diaspora. He has been part of UKIERI, UK India Education Research Initiative, and also completed value-based education leading core leadership from and dynamic Mr. Siddharth Singh, Director, Emerald Heights International School, Indore. Mr. Siddharth Singh, Director of the Emerald Heights International School, is awarded at the ASMA India's Top 40 Under Top 40 Awards 2021 in the field of education. So we welcome you, sir. And General Kulkarni, I would like you to open the discussion, but yes, first, your views on the latest news that has been just shared. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am, for your generous introduction, but you said that it was in no particular order. I did observe that you started with the oldest, came down to Siddharth, who is the youngest. So there is an order in this. About the cancellation, you can see I'm smiling. I'm very happy. It's a very practical decision because 10th is not a life-changing event. when you move from class 12, it has repercussions for students, whether they want to study in India or go abroad. It is linked to the academic calendars of various universities in various places in various disciplines. It's also linked to the competitive exam schedule of the country. But class 10 is not linked to those. So therefore, I think it's a very prudent decision. Now, for most of the children, they will graduate from class 10 into class 11 in the same school. So really speaking, the manner of assessment only requires a decision on whether they have passed or failed. And in a school like mine, I'm not worried about that. None of my class 10 boys are going to fail. But yes, the CBSE, I hope, will soon bring out a circular indicating the guidelines on what basis assessment of the outgoing class 10 has to be done. As far as class 12 is concerned, they need to find a smarter way of doing it in June whenever they do it. Because if the results are delayed beyond a point, then the admission cycle of many universities in the world the deadline may be missed by our students. And therefore, when they're saying they're assessing this on 1st of June, I think they need to assess this every 15 days. They need not disclose it to the public. But the ministry and the CBSE board must review it every 15 days and be in a position to come up with a dynamic decision. For some reason, if the curve flattens and goes down, then they could even take a decision on 15th May. Why wait? It's still more than a month away. And then say, okay, we'll have exams on 15th June or whenever date. And also the assessment or the exam correction system this time needs to be so streamlined that the results come out with the minimum possible delay. I'm sure my fellow panelists will have more to say on this, but these are my views.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Singh, your views, please.
I think it's a welcome decision, as General Kulkarni just pointed out. I personally feel that I feel bad for the kids actually, because they're especially class 12. They have had such a roller coaster ride this whole year, with their classes, with not being able to, meet their friends all year round, and then finally coming in and directly giving their practicals, and now having the board, that they're always second guessing their decisions. So I request the CBSE, as Sir rightly pointed out, that they should continuously meet and reevaluate the situation and take a decision and not give us surprise bombs, what we generally get. For class 10th, I feel the decision is absolutely right. It's, as Sir said, that it's not a life-changing decision. Most of the students, they end up staying in the same school, and it's absolutely, it's not a problem taking them to the next class. We would rather concentrate on class 11th for them, then keep that kind of baggage of class 10th with them. I think a decision of class 10th is a welcome decision, but class 12th, I would request them to kind of evaluate the situation every 15 days instead of waiting 2 months to see. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Sanduja, your viewpoints, please.
Thank you, Vasudha ma'am, and I just would like to say hello to all my co-panelists. I think what has happened is something which was inevitable possibly. And I think we need to wait for the CBSE circular, which has to come maybe in details. I'm expecting that they would give the children of class 10 a chance, that in case they do not want to go by the internal assessment system, then there would be an opportunity that might be given to them to go by the boards, though the possibility of that is going to be very, very less. And I do think, and I resonate what General Kulkarni had said. I think class 10th is definitely not that much important. And rest of the points are already covered, so I would not like to enhance the same.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Now, coming back to our topic, collaborative learning. Does the student get the best of both worlds in a school-university collaboration? Well, we will be discussing that today. Now, both schools and colleges, though being separate and distinct identities, distinct systems, yet have the same broad common goal of educating students from ages, yet most of the times from past many years, the collaboration is missing. There is no bridging. There was not any bridging of the communication between them earlier. And with all due respect, the classic example what I would want to take is of CCE a few years ago, when the CCE pattern was launched, and most of the schools had adopted that uh, pattern, and the students getting 10 CGPA on in grade 10, and it was a complete comprehensive system, evaluation system, where there were combination of formative and summative assessments, the projects and everything. And when they were writing, a student getting 10 CGPA would not get more than 80 to 85% marks in grade 12. And then when we used to see the, being a Delhiite, I would say that I would see the Delhi cutoff, Delhi University cutoff was 99 to 100%. So there was all mismatch of expectations, and there was no thought or collaboration or cooperation, anything, everything was missing at that point. From that, and now coming to this, where we are expecting to bridge the gap. Now, taking the cue from what General Kulkarni today just said, that when we have to take the cues nationally, internationally also, we have to keep in mind, when will our result of grade 12 students come, when will they write the examination, and the university's dates and all that. So it is not going to happen, it is not going to uh, take place unless and until we have a collaborative system exchange of ideas between the schools, K to 12 education, and higher education sector. So my first question to Mr. Sanduja is, how do you think that K to 12 and higher education collaboration help in enhancing the professional skills of the future teachers as well?
Uh, Thank you, Vasudha ma'am. I think what you were trying to point out, that the university admissions as they were happening, I think it's important for us to understand what happens in Indian universities at times, and how the very high percentages and the cutoffs leads to a kind of jam for almost everyone there. And at the same time, I think we need to have a centralized system and a data driven system, which is because the number of boards in India is very high. There are multiple state boards, and then there is a central board of secondary education, ISC. So all these have their own evaluation systems, and sometimes what happens is that the relative marking in each of them differs, and there are no standard set centralized standardization system. So because of that, what happens is, supposing one particular board is kind of giving a diluted marks, then what happens, that particular board just kind of outshines in the central universities. Therefore, what happens is that a lot of children who have the caliber and the skill are not able to make it. So I think NEP is trying to address these issues, and they are trying to come up with a plan of NTA, National Testing Agency, which is going to kind of have a standardized system of assessment, which can be then taken up by various universities. And I think the first step to that, we are already seeing that this time central universities are going to have a common entrance examination, which is in the pipeline now. So, for a professional skills for the future teachers, I think awareness of all these things and being aware of the data and information is one of the most critical skills to be known, because future teachers will have to bridge this gap of information and knowledge for the children, as well as from where to get that information and how to kind of bridge that gap. So this becomes extremely important for future teachers to know how to get the information and also keep their own data to be aware of where and what is happening. Like there are certain schools I know which pay a lot of attention to where their own children are going. Like my own school kind of does. We keep track of the data that we have and try to make sure that where the children are going. Like last year's batch, there were 209 children, and we were able to track 205 out of them in which university and in which college they were going. Now, this kind of information helps a lot to the upcoming batches, where they need to kind of go and how they need to get information from the seniors that they are available with. So I think the future teachers will have to have this particular skill. And that's all I think about. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. With this, I move to General Kulkarni. Sir, your opening remark and then your views on the question that, what the collaboration we were speaking about. So how can we bring this kind of collaboration into action, and what will be the takeaway for the students? Over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. I think today is a good day to talk about this because we've just seen the chaos for class 12 boys. Imagine if a class 12 boy knew which college he's going to, this wouldn't have happened. We could have cancelled the class 12 exam also. So today what is happening is there is this huge artificial divide between K-12 and K-13. And the admission system of colleges creates, by and large, except for certain places where you get an early decision. But in most places, you are waiting for the board results to come, and then the scramble for admission starts. Or the confirmation of admission takes place, even if you have applied earlier. Therefore, there is uncertainty for the student in class 12 when he's studying, because as Mr. Sanduja rightly said, grades matter. Then there's uncertainty about the results. When will they come on time before the cutoff date of certain university? And finally, the admission itself. So my main point is, in my opening remarks, that this divide between K-12 and K-13 has to be broken, either whether it's done through the NTA, but more importantly, without waiting, by direct interest of the universities, particularly the private universities, till the government universities may take longer, have a system by which there is an admission assured to a boy when he starts class 12 with certain conditions. Okay, we are giving you a provisional admission, but you need to get 80% marks or 85% marks. You want it in so-and-so discipline, at least in that discipline, you must get so much. We don't care how much you get in psychology, but you want to do it in history, please get 85 in history. Moment this happens, man, and you will find that there is a solution. Today, unfortunately, most universities want to have collaboration with schools as a scouting ground for potential admissions. And there is no honest and true collaboration, to the extent that it could be or it ought to be. So much for my opening remarks. I got very experienced colleagues. I'll wait for them.
Thank you so much, sir. And what do you think will be the takeaway for the students if universities and schools are on the same page exchanging notes?
It's wonderful. I'll give you an example. I came very close to signing an MOU with the Jindal University at one stage where they liked the idea. There are, sometime back, we had a webinar one-to-one for my school with 16 universities. They said, sir, fine, we'll work it out with you. I said, from grade 9, from where I start my career guidance, please have a running interaction with my students so that their interests, what kind of student you want, what subject choices, let this get aligned with each other by the time they finish grade 11. You have 3 years. Meanwhile, you can have campus visits, you can have exchange programs, you can have collaboration, whatever you like. But when the boy hits grade 12, you tell him, if he still wants to come to university, are you taking him or not? so that he doesn't either look elsewhere or he looks elsewhere. I'm afraid some universities, I've got an MOU with certain foreign universities where they're giving me dedicated assurance of admission of my children. In some cases, even assured scholarships of a certain percentage for undergrad students. But Indian universities, there is all positive intention. I'm afraid I've not come to this happy conclusion with anybody so far.
Thank you very much, sir. Now to Mr. Siddharth Singh. Sir, your opening statement, and followed by I will ask you a question after the opening statement.
I think a lot of what I wanted to say has already been said. But I think when we talk about collaborations between high school and universities, it's very similar to, talking about collaborations between universities and the workplace, when you enter, the workspace. So the importance level is the same, because end of the day, we are preparing our kids to go for higher education, and higher education institutions are preparing the children to enter the workforce. So I think that collaboration is very, very important. It is very important for the schools to understand what kind of skills are required at the university level for the students to be successful. And as Sir rightly pointed out, that collaborations do exist. Universities, especially foreign universities, are very, very aggressive in India in terms of their campus engagement. They are coming on campuses, they are conducting short term courses. We have a tie-up with an Ivy League university where we have a symposium which happens every January. We have certain universities which come and take classes on campus for maths, for literature, for this thing. As you know, to promote their own campus, but at the same time, we are able to give our students that experience of university teachings and university learning, how it's different from what we do in school. And collaboration also helps by giving them exposure. We are all aware of the summer classes that happen in universities, specifically for high school students, to give them some kind of experience, of higher education. All these things are already happening, and I think from a learning point of view, these collaborations are very important. And it also depends on what kind of career placement cell, or what kind of what kind of vision the school has, because not every school is looking for that kind of collaboration. Unfortunately, in India, I personally feel we select the students in a very, very wrong way based on their percentage, and we don't meet the student, we don't interact with the students, we don't care if the child is a national player, or was a good debater, or a munner, or went on exchange programs, did community service. Nothing of that sort matters. If you have 99, you get in. If you have 97, you don't get in. So I personally feel we need to kind of turn the page where higher education in India is concerned, and look at more collaborative projects, look at more so that can enhance the learning of the child, instead of just concentrating on percentages. That's, I think, very, very important.
Thank you, sir. Like you spoke about the thing of collaboration and how things are. So according to you, does this collaborative learning be limited to universities offering courses, education, like you were saying that we universities coming to your school and giving lectures, or it should be a flip side also, wherein school teachers are also going to the colleges, or we are inviting college students to our schools to observe how the classes are being taken when we are talking about per se the education sector. And the collaborative learning between schools and universities offering degree in education will ensure that both exchange notes and strategies to teach this generation, where we somebody calls it millennial kids, somebody call it Gen Z and all that. So, but do you think apart from education, it should be broadened to other streams as well? Your views, please.
I think why not? I haven't heard of high school teachers going to universities as yet. They do go for professional development courses, but we do have teacher exchange programs with other schools across the world, because everywhere, schools and the way they teach is very different, and our learning outcomes are very different. For example, our learning outcomes will be very academic. The same might not be true for some other country. So we do have university students coming on campus, observing our classes, and the symposium I spoke about within Ivy League universities, that's a student-run initiative. So we do have professors coming in, but the symposium is run by the students. And similarly, the other classes that I spoke about, there is a specific element where students come on campus. So we do have university students coming on campus and interacting with the students, but and we do have our students traveling to universities and interacting. But for teachers, it's not the other way around. I suppose I wish we have something like that, but as of now we don't. It's And also you spoke about generation. I personally feel within today's social media generation, as we call them, it's it's the same thing. I mean, people are connected across the world. It's very easy to kind of understand. Obviously, it has a lot of negatives to it, but then I personally feel that we heard sometime back that universities are going through the social media accounts of the students they are selecting, just to find out how the student really is. So kids and the world is more connected than ever. So I feel that analyzing the generation through these programs might not be the optimal use of our resources.
Thank you. Thank you. General Kulkarni, your views on this aspect, what Mr. Singh was speaking, that, if there is something like our school teachers going to universities, if there are, education institutions, I mean, education colleges offering education degrees. So what is your take on this? That if a teacher goes to the university and talks to the batch there, what are the challenges they are facing? So what's your view on that kind of collaboration?
Ma'am, there are two aspects to it. One, that I would restrict it only to those colleges offering education degrees. We have had our students, I mean our teachers, sorry, not students, teachers going to pursue master's degrees in universities where there are certain amount of contact programs in their campuses with the universities, some of it which they do distance learning, and some where those professors come to our school to evaluate what is it that they have picked up from there. But as I said, these are one-off things you can cite in a gathering like this. There is no well-established system in place. And for this, you got to have a good system in place, a tried system, which may happen in fewer universities, fewer schools, no problem. But then somewhere it has to be scaled up. And in today's digital era, it is possible to have this nice hybrid version of some physical engagements in the university, some engagements in the school, and the balance being done online.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Sanduja, your views on the same, please.
I think it's an important initiative where any teacher in the school, at least few in the top seniors group of teachers, must be exposed to some of the universities or the colleges where the children are going to go. Because once they know what is happening there, their understanding of the right fit enhances much further. So what happens is that they can come back and share the information and knowledge with the children with the kind of fit that is required. And many a times what happens is that the children do not understand those requirements of a specific university, and therefore it becomes a misfit for them. Hence, a teacher of the school being completely aware of where the children are going and what are the requirements of that place makes it very, very important for a teacher to guide them, because many a times the students fall back onto their school teachers only for guidance at times. So that becomes a big help. So I think it's a good initiative that should be done.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Coming to you, Mr. Singh, you spoke about the exchange program and all the things. So for many years in the international universities and over the past couple of years in India as well, we have noticed that many progressive schools conduct an internship program for their middle and high school students, where they can go and visit universities to have an experience of the course they want to choose. What are your views on this, and how can it be carried further? And to give you an example, the school where I was heading before 3 years ago, there we had two kind of systems. One, we used to call it a college bridge program, wherein, our group of students of grade 8, 9, 10, they used to go to a particular university. We started with the architect and design college. They went to a particular university. They understood about the career. It was a complete week, 10 days course. And for the junior ones, we had a parent partnership program. So we used to call any professional parent once in a month, maybe a pilot, maybe an entrepreneur, maybe a school leader, politician. So they used to come, and with the primary students, they used to discuss, what are the challenges they are facing, how is their feel like, and with the senior students, they used to talk about, how the senior students can get into the this kind of profession. So what are your views on this, and how what is your school doing about it? And I would like other two panelists also to throw some light on that. So first, Mr. Singh, over to you.
Collaboration at high school is an excellent idea, and I think a lot of progressive schools, as you rightly said, are doing that already. Why it's important? Because it gives our students that hands-on knowledge and that experience, if they want to pursue that field or not. It's very important, and I think in India, so abroad, it's very easy to do all this because NASA does a program where I'm sure all our schools have taken part in that, where the students go and visit NASA. MIT does a robotics program. Stanford has their own program for coding, where high school students can come in grade 8 onwards and take part in these programs. Not that Stanford has to do this program or MIT wants to do this program, but the high school engagement part is built into the university's essence in US. Unfortunately, in India, we don't have such programs at IIT or other progressive universities as of now. I wish we have. A couple of years back, I don't know if they have changed or not. I called ISRO. I said, why don't we have something like NASA where kids can come in and visit the site, and maybe you can do a workshop. So they said that no civilian is allowed inside the campus. so so what happens is that in India we need to have that first of all, that mindset to have that kind of engagement with the high school. I don't think we have that. Like, similarly, we struggle with university and workforce, that the workforce is like, oh my god, the kids who are coming out of the university, they are of no use because they don't know anything, because there is no interaction between the workforce and the university. Similarly, I feel that all these premier universities in India need to increase their engagement with high schools, need to offer maybe summer school, need to offer programs. We have such good universities like IIMs and IITs, but there's absolutely no interaction between high school and and most of the kids going to these universities don't even go to a normal high school. That's another day's topic, which we all know about dummy schools, and all these schools exist which have no normal curriculum. They're just there for the child to get into a university. So our systems have to change, and the benefit of having a collaboration is amazing. I think the students, whoever goes through it, has definitely something positive to take back.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Mr. Sanduja, your views, please.
So what happens is that sometimes it's good for a school to collect the data of where the children are going, and it's extremely important for the school to know that. So once you have the data of where the children are going, then you can kind of collate and kind of shortlist certain universities which can be approached for collaboration and for student engagement programs at the earlier stages. Like I know for sure, like we have a school, say Anand Ramjapuriya School in Kanpur, where there are children who go into IIT. And IIT Kanpur is very, very proactive in this kind of programs with the children. They let the children come in, and then they do kind of take them for a visit to some of their laboratories. And they also have a science program which kind of runs for the children. Similarly, there are other universities and schools. So I can show you how the tracking can be done. Say, for example, if I can show you one slide. So in this, what happens is that a batch of say 2018-19, we just need to first track which are the universities where the children are going. And once we have, like this is the data of 205 out of 209 children. and we get to know which are the major target zones for our children. And then we can definitely approach universities like Amity, like I know IIT does good, and other universities also, to help out the children. And of course, the foreign universities are more than forthcoming for helping out children. Like most of the US universities are very, very forthcoming to come and do session with your children and give them all sorts of information that is required. So once you have this kind of data, then the person who is there at the top of the or the helm of the affairs, a teacher who needs to coordinate with various universities and then get that bridge done up well, that is going to help a lot. And then the shortlisting is just a simple affair. And I strongly believe that nowadays parents are also not only looking at shortlisting of universities, they also need some help in financial services. So the school must cater to bringing on the table certain financial help that can be brought to the children in case their future university requires a good amount of money to be kind of used. So I think the school can actually work on all these lines and give a good package to the children, because I think it is our responsibility not only to give out a particular certificate to the children, but also to show how and where they can go and then finally get a right fit into the work and the places where they need to kind of get returns of their education, whatever they did.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. General Kulkarni, your views, please.
I will second what Mr. Sanduja said, but one or two more things. One, that is the interest between the universities and schools from the perspective of admission. Second is the interest from the perspective of financial assistance. These are very true. But a third thing is, if you follow the NEP, they are going to have an academic bank of credits. And if universities start offering these, today, let's say, if you want to do computer science, a kid of 11 could be doing what might form part of the first year syllabus in college or in some other field, in community service, as Siddharth said. So why can't he be given a credit of that university while he's in school? Like you have the AP program, right? You build up these credits, as long as the university is willing to give it to him. It may also lure the child to get into that university because he finds now that my admission is assured. I already built up 6 credits while I'm in school. So the interface between the university and school will get far more intimate. And one other aspect, as he showed his pie chart showing where children are going, there are 2 facets to it. One is you track them where they're going and chase those universities. One is also that you chase those universities where kids are not going but ought to go.
Yeah.
You know, there are some universities, I'll give you example. We have a German faculty in school, and I was asked why was it introduced before Spanish. The reason for that was that in Germany, tuition fees are free in government universities. And given the large presence of German companies in India, a boy who knows some German at the right levels, has studied there, maybe in the English course, but knows speaking German, is obviously a better fit to hire when he comes back by a German company in India. So there are many such facets, and we need to deepen this understanding and get the universities on board well in time. But the best solution will come when it takes away the fear in the mind of the child and the parents कि 12th के बाद क्या होगा. If this business is resolved in the first half of class 12, I think we would have done well by our students.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Sanduja, in the models we observe, there are a lot of options. We spoke about that, where school can visit universities to explore the different stream for students. How can we flip this approach, and what will be the pros and cons of this?
I think yes, this is a like students are going to various universities and attending summer programs and knowing more about those universities is a very good exposure. But then nowadays, with the help of technology, the exposure can be virtual also. So this virtual exposure definitely kind of reduces the time and the amount of energy and money spent on this whole process. But I think it is, if we flip this thing, what we are saying right now, that if the universities also kind of come to schools, and possibly schools also they also observe what is happening in the school, and then they kind of tailor make things as per the school students, that I think would definitely be a very good opportunity for the students. But then the amount of or the number of children that are available in a particular school, I think the universities will have to do a lot of hard work into this process to first select the particular schools, and then come to them, and then make sure that the things that they are kind of highlighting for the students, and then knowing those students, it's going to be a pretty difficult task for the universities also. But I think it's a good opportunity if the school counselors can kind of bridge this gap for the university and the school, and make sure that whatever the university has to offer to the students is given out to the children in advance, and at least a year in advance. I think it will be a very, very big help for the children. And we should try that it starts happening in class 9, because I strongly second the idea that when the child enters into class 12, must he or she should know that there is no uncertainty after class 12. There must be a clarity that where he or she is trying to go. So that can be definitely bridged, and this can happen in India, and it will be a very big advantage.
Thank you. And I'll come back to you, sir. Just curious to know, like you showed us the us a slide, and we're so curious to know about your career placement cell also. But before that, Mr. Singh, your views on this question, and of course, would like to know about your career placement cell.
I think we do something very similar to what Sir has done. We analyze our placements every year. The key to giving to making sure that your kids are in the right university, in the right course, is giving them exposure at the right age. So I think Sir said class 9. I personally feel it's the right age is class 8, when we start talking to them about their careers, about the different opportunities that are available around them. And we also start getting, universities to do certain courses with them. And especially liberal arts universities, which are able to, give them a more holistic approach to education, with discussions around ancient history, literature, technology. So what happens, the child starts thinking about it. The idea is to kind of force them to think that what do I want to do, where do I want to go, how much can I afford. So I think this is a very important, and as Sir rightly pointed out, that finance is a very important part, because education abroad is not easy. Education, yeah, in good university.
Started, I'd like to briefly cover some housekeeping. During today's webinar, it will not be possible to have either your cameras or microphones switched on. However, you will be able to submit questions to our presenters using the Q&A function.
All right, that's better. Yeah. So, I think the exposure is the key. And I think keeping the data, data is very, very important. It helps you analyze your placement. It helps you where you can improve, and what kind of exposure is further required, for the students to do, to get placed into better universities.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Sorry, there was some technical glitch at my end. Sir, Kulkarni, sir, your views on the same?
Yeah. See, you can debate whether it should be start in class 8 or 9. But now with the new NEP putting 9 to 12 as one block, I think it makes good sense there, number one. Number two is, for the first 2 years, it's my firm belief, and I have had this debate with my counselor many times, that please don't bring the parents into the story. because what the parents want and the child wants very often is not the same. And the parent is conditioned by the world the parents grew up in. The child is conditioned by today's world and is dreaming of tomorrow's world. So I think a fairer chance should be given to the child. The second issue is not what the child wants to do. In tomorrow's world, it should be what all does he want to do. Because otherwise you start narrowing him down into a vertical silo, which happened with our times. In the world of tomorrow, and even the NEPs or today even CBSE offers you a wide variety of subjects, and so does the international programs. So if you have such a wide variety of programs, and colleges are also allowing you a mix and match kind of program, in which case, why are we narrowing down? As it is, stream selection is such a narrowing and sad thing that happens at present, but hopefully we'll grow out of that. So that's the second part, that the parents should be brought in so late into the story that the children are able to convince them and not the other way around. Third thing, when universities come to the schools, they need to do, and I go back to a point which Sid said about not just being focused on academics. To understand that child, their teachers or their professors must come or their admission team must come and do an immersion program in the school. And the school should invest in hosting them. Because when they go around, they will see that this child is, whatever his academic grades show up, no problem. But in co-curriculars, in sports, in other activities, what is the true potential of the child? What is happening is today's admission system gives you admission on performance. What's the result in class 12? What universities ought to look at is what is the potential of this child. And unless they invest in that, how do you assess the potential? And therefore, I encourage universities always to come and do an immersion program with me. In fact, there was to be, one of the private universities was to arrive tomorrow. I've asked them to hold back because of the situation. But they were sending a team and I said, please be here 2 days, 3 days, whatever time you like. Understand this, understand what is the ethos of my school, of my children, and then find on both sides a happy fit for both. So the career guidance program is very, very important. And we need to look at certain universities. Today in India itself, in the last 5 years, 2 or 3 universities I know offhand have come up whose management reflects the likes of, Raghuram Rajan and various other top people. So even if it's a brand new university, it's well worth having a dialogue and conversation. And more importantly, since they don't have much going so far for them, they need to come and do an immersion with my school. So I feel these multiple steps will contribute to a better opportunity and better stream selection, college selection, and student selection all around.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Singh, I would like to know more about your, you have told about your career placement cell, but my question to you is that how, according to you, how can these two entities of schools and universities can work together to promote, foster, and support the goal of collaborative learning, where there is a win-win situations for the students per se?
See, ultimately, ma'am, what happens is that our priority, our kids are our priority. So it's very, very important that as a progressive schools, we are able to give them the opportunities, we are able to give them exposure, and as I spoke about, and all these collaborative activities, be it exchange programs, summer school, immersion programs, as sir pointed out, short-term courses, symposiums. All these things eventually give students the exposure they require and further push them to do their own research, because they have to do their own research on what kind of course they want to do, what kind of university they want to go, which country do they want to go to, and even if they go to country, do they want to live in California or New York? There are very minute decisions that the child has to take, and we should have the support system in the school to help them make that decision. So we are not making the decision for them, we are helping them make the decision. And obviously, as sir rightly said, if it was up to me, I would keep the parents out even after class 12 of the decision making process. But unfortunately, we need the money from them to fund their education, and that's where they come in to support our wild thoughts, I would say, of sending their kid here and there and wherever. So, but I feel that schools need to make that investment, need to give that time. So this is all this is something which is separate from academics. This won't help the child get 99 or 100, but definitely will make the child happier in life. So I think I'm sure all the schools here are doing that, but I would request a lot more schools to invest in career placement cells and such collaborative programs.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Now, Mr. Sanduja, I would like to know about your career placement cell and, of course, the answer, your views on the question I asked Mr. Siddharth.
See, the career placement cell that we have generally actually involves a career counselor who kind of conducts multiple sessions with the parents and the students and tries to keep a track of the strengths and the skills or the interests of a child from class 9 onwards. So what happens is that this kind of data gets available to the teachers as well as the students. And we have a portal in which there are various types of career guidance and various types of psychometric tests available for the parent and the student, so that the student can take it and then further decide with the help of those tests that where one should be going, so that the strengths that the child has are also in conjunction with the interests that the child has and the aptitude that the child holds, so that they can find the right fit of university for themselves. And once those shortlistings are done, then there are various types of guidance which are offered from the school side to those children, and their dockets are maintained by the school. So finally, when the children are in class 11 and 12, they have something to fall back onto. They definitely have the opportunity to kind of change whatever they were thinking in class 9, because it is not necessary that whatever they thought in class 9 is kind of written on stone, nothing like that. But yes, we do tell children that they have to make sure that they equip themselves in such a manner that learning to learn is one of the most important skill that they develop in due course. So that whatever jobs they are taking now, whatever happens with them in the future, they should be able to change their course if at all required. Because it is not an easy task that an 18-year-old or a 16-year-old can decide what he or she is going to do for the next 30, 40 or 50 years in their lives. So the best way to equip them is to make sure that they kind of become lifelong learners, so that they can kind of change their course as and when they require. Apart from that, I strongly believe that a school should not try to do everything all alone, but there should be a cluster of schools so that they can collaborate with a cluster of universities. Because then what happens is that one, the costs come down. Secondly, we have a larger block of people interacting with a larger block of people, so that it's easier for the universities also. So I strongly believe that university fairs are a very good idea if the schools can do it, and if a cluster of schools can do it. Because in IB circles, I know that IB World Schools do collaborate with each other, and at the same time, then there are various other types of collaborations, like General Kulkarni is already a part of the Round Square, and there is a different kind of collaboration that happens. Similarly, in CBSE circles, there is that Sahodaya group of schools where the collaboration can happen, and then the university fairs can happen. I think we need to be more aggressively becoming a cluster of schools which can kind of collaborate at these levels, because once we do the collaborations, we will also teach our children to collaborate in due course, which is one of the most important life skill that is required. And I strongly believe that the parents and the students should be at certain point of time put on a single platform, so that they can iron out whatever the differences are, and then they can go ahead into the situation where it is. So that should be done at the school level itself, maybe by class 11 or 12. And that is an important learning. So this is what I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. General Kulkarni, coming to you, seeking your views on the same concept that, how do you feel that schools and universities can create a win-win situation for the students?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of has already been said, partly by me and much more by my colleagues. The fact still remains that the university has to be engaged with students on a one-on-one basis. You get me? It's not about mass. A good university not interested in hiring 5,000 students. They want to hire 5,000 individuals if they come for that number, right? And therefore, as I said, number one, immersion programs. Number two, as Mr. Sanduja said, university fairs, barring last year because of the pandemic. Otherwise, last few years, we host a university fair in our school every year, in which, given the number of candidates I have, which is not many, I get about 1.5 university per child, which is a very good number. Of course, we share it with our two schools, which are here in Ajmer. And we also offer it to some other schools if they show interest, and they want to send a handful of candidates. But the reality still remains this, that for the world of tomorrow, there are 3-4 things I just want to reiterate. Number one, waiting for class 12 to end is just too late. It's not the way. Second thing is, starting from class 9, there has to be online and on-site engagements between the students and the university. At that point in time, the student may have 3-4 faculties in mind in the university, or a combination of these faculties. So when the child goes for a summer program or an immersion, he should be allowed to interact with those faculties, make up his mind. Those faculty members, when they come to school, do the reverse. And gradually, by about beginning of class 11, I'm very confident they will come to a mutually agreeable understanding. To support this, and because for children to understand what are the possibilities, take for example, a student studying biology today need not become a doctor. There are many other professions which are unlimited in scope in terms of opportunities, in terms of income, which have nothing to do with becoming a doctor. So each teacher today in school has to be a part counselor. And therefore, our counseling team is now working with our teachers to guide them on two things: to understand how to brief students on where their future opportunities lie, and number two, to learn how to write proper letters of recommendation, which are individualistic and don't look like a cut and paste job, so that it helps the admission team of the university to differentiate between student X and student Y. Otherwise, if you just have platitudes, everyone sounds alike. So this is some views. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, before I request the panelists for their concluding statements, I would like to invite Mr. Ravi Santlani in. Are you there, Ravi?
Very much here, Vasudha. Thank you very much.
Yes.
And that was.
So Ravi, I am very intrigued to ask you your views on this particular topic, because you are the one who's a sutradharan who has created this whole 2 days interesting roundtable journey. So, and I believe ours is the last panel. So, what inspired you to hold this conference? And, I always feel that, any vision without implementation is hallucination. So it's an old saying. So what we should do so that whatever we are discussing here, it can be implemented. And I know you are a person who will drive the things and who will ensure that it's implemented. So over to you, Ravi.
Well, I'm basically a KG student in front of such luminaries on the same screen. So, of course, I won't make any comment on this particular roundtable, that the subject that you guys were discussing. But again, the broader idea of source scholarship and the reason of hosting this 2-day event on international higher education was we have Kulkarni sir, who I think by far one of the best education fairs, I mean, that happened in the entire state of Rajasthan is at Mayo. I mean, I've been hearing about this since quite many years now. And then we have Siddharth, I mean, who has been really successful in carving his own space in the entire state of Madhya Pradesh. When I was a child, we only used to hear Scindia's and the Daily College, but I think, I mean, Emerald Heights International School is one of the topmost schools there in MP. So I think, I mean, these people already have these international universities coming in, but the only problem that I kind of figure out that, my daughter is in class 10th right now. And I'm just trying to finish this event as soon as possible so that I can start my drive to Gwalior to pick her up. And the idea is, the transition between the school and the international higher education, there is a major problem out there. I mean, because the moment these students, they land for them, especially undergraduate courses I'm talking about, the moment they land in these countries for their higher education, I mean, they are pretty much blank. It takes at least 2 to 3 semesters for these students, I mean, or maybe 2 to 3 quarters for these students to kind of actually understand where these people are and what all they actually need to learn. So, ideally, another mob mentality that I wanted to address through this platform was, we have seen last 20 years of, first 5 years as MBBS as a trending thing where every parent wanted to, have their child become a doctor. Second rush was engineering, and then came MBA and then MCA. So while speaking to General Kulkarni when we were in London, I do remember, sir, we spoke about humanities and liberal arts while speaking with Manit from Heritage Experiential Learning School, while speaking with Siddharth and a lot of other people. I mean, I see that there is a beautiful opportunity for liberal arts and, students. And I think, I mean, Ashoka University is a great example that, the entire university has been crowdfunded and liberal arts is at the center. So there are multiple things that we are trying to solve. It's not a very small feat for us to do. It will take at least a couple of years, but ideally we wanted to collate at least 500 top international universities scholarships on one portal and have that particular portal as a go-to portal for a lot of students who are studying in India. I mean, we would want to have at least 100 full scholarships for deserving students from not so privileged background. That is one aim that I'm working on for 2022, if not 2021. But yes, we would want to see 100 students from the underprivileged background to go abroad. I mean, which could also include the train ticket to New Delhi airport and the flight tickets and pretty much in-flight meals and everything that they want to. So this is the aim, and I'm pretty sure that we will be able to do that. I mean, we haven't really promised anything in last 5 years and have not completed it. So we are very confident that with support of all you people, we'll be able to reach out. And I'm pretty sure that we will be learning a lot of new things while this journey. So nothing is perfect. Might as well, I don't have a foolproof plan. I don't have a great strategy right now, but as we move on, as we speak to a lot of people like you, we will learn and we will pivot, and then we will kind of reach our destination. Ek aad saal upar niche, but we'll reach there.
Thank you, Ravi. And now coming to all my panelists now in particular order. So I would just request to give their concluding statements. And of course, I will begin with General Kulkarni.
Yeah, I want to reiterate my favorite theme. Let's cut out this artificial divide between K-12 and K-13. The day it happens, a lot of problems of a lot of students and parents will be solved, number one. Number two, we must walk the talk. All that was being said today, we must do. We are fortunate, the three of us who are on your panel, I know we are walking the talk. But there are many more people who would like to walk the talk, but it's very hard, a lot of hard work behind it. I recommend it's worth it for the sake of your students. And third thing is, as I will leave you today, tomorrow with one of India's emerging private universities, which is about 10 years old, I have a roundtable with the Vice Chancellor, with a handful of other school principals. So clearly, this engagement is an ongoing and a deep-rooted one. If you're doing it, that alone can keep the head of the school or the director of the school occupied for about 1/3 of the year. So thank you very much for this opportunity. And of course, Mr. Harish and Sid, it's always a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Sanduja, over to you, please, for your concluding remarks.
Thank you, Vasudha ma'am. I think I will have only one statement to make, and that is very simple, that we should be clear where we are heading. And if the end is clear and the goals are clear for us, then I think it is just going to be a cakewalk for us to make the path for that particular goal. So we must be clear, especially for our kids, where we want them and what processes they should be following to reach where they want to go. So if that becomes a better thing for all the schools, I think we would have done the job that we are in. And thank you everyone. And it's always a very good opportunity to listen to General Kulkarni. Thank you. And Siddharth, thank you for being there. And Ravi, I'm sure that the goal that you're setting for yourself, we definitely look forward to it to become a reality someday. And I would definitely love to be a part of that reality and help you out in getting this done.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Singh, over to you.
First of all, Ravi, thank you for keeping the best for last. As I got to know that our panel was the last. But yes, I think that a lot of work has to be done, and I think Source Scholarship has a very, very bright future. I'm sure that we'll be able to help a large section of the society by encouraging such platforms in the country and give opportunity to each and every child if possible. So thank you, Ravi. It's a great initiative, and we are behind it with all our support. And we wish you all the luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Siddharth. And also, I'll take this opportunity to congratulate you for your new school. I mean, that's indeed a brilliant job that you're doing, and that's an all-girls school. And I'm pretty sure that...
Ravi, it shows what's on his mind. Yeah, he went for an all-girls school.
Yeah, General's humor. I mean, so we are on live telecast, so of course we'll not.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Educationists take themselves too seriously. Yeah? Come on.
Wonderful.
It's the last session, Sid, but the last word will of course be of Ravi. So we'll wait for it.
I'm not listening anything. I'm not saying anything. But thank you, Vasudha ma'am, for moderating this panel. And indeed, this was well thought over. That I won't give any of these males the moderating opportunity. This is going to be a female who's going to moderate. And of course, thank you, General, for your sense of humor. I mean, it is the best in the country. Harish sir, thank you very much. And said, I mean, you look fresh as always. So, I mean, step outside sometime. I mean, look. So wonderful. And thank you very much. It's about time that, I have just another 5-minute session here where we are going to unveil our Australia Education Fair. So I'm just going to thank you very much once again and request you to switch off your video so that I can bring my another guest in.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful. So that's pretty much the fag end of International Roundtable for Educators. And I have Gagan Singh with me. Gagan, if you could switch on your video, I can see you. You're there.
I'm just trying to change the view. Just a second.
Sure. Brilliant. I can see you now.
Am I audible?
Of course. I can see you and I can hear you. Thank you, Gagan. I'm sorry I kept you waiting in the waiting room, but yeah, I mean, this is how we stretch our time. Some amazing discussions were happening, and for a little context here to all our viewers today, I mean, this is basically the last session, which will only end for under 5 minutes here, and the idea is to unveil our upcoming Australia Education Fair. And as you can see, I have with me Mr. Gagan Singh, CEO at Planet Education Australia. And with over 20 years of experience in the education domain, 22 offices in India, 25 offices globally, Planet Education represent over 350 universities all over the world. And with its official headquarters in Australia and head office in Sydney, where I'm yet to visit, Planet Education is considered a one-stop destination for thousands of Indian students willing to study abroad. So the idea here is I have a little creative that I would want to share the screen, and I'll invite my friend Gagan to share, what exactly we are going to do with this. Over to you, Gagan.
Ravi, thanks for that introduction, and good afternoon to everyone. Um, my name is Gagan. I'm the CEO of Planet Education, as Ravi mentioned, and I'll quickly give you an overview of course, Planet Education. We've been around for 22 years, and we represent all the top universities in Australia, and our head office is in Sydney, and I'm based here in Sydney. And we've recently collaborated. We have a strategic collaboration with Ravi now in terms of promoting Australian education and Australian universities. We are. This is the first event that we are planning to have with Ravi, which is the Australian Education Fair, where your students will get an opportunity to interact directly with all the top universities like University of Queensland, University of Technology Sydney, Macquarie, Monash University, University of New South Wales, ECU, Deakin, and many more. The students will benefit from fee waivers. So normally most of the universities would have a certain application fee ranging from $100 to $250 to $300. So that gets waived off for students. So basically the students don't have to pay the application fee, and they save money there. And plus they get on-the-spot assessment of their applications, on-the-spot assessment of whether they will qualify for scholarships or not. And just to mention that Australian universities are nowadays very generous with their scholarships. So therefore, it will be a great opportunity for students to learn about all the scholarship options that are available, not only from these universities, but in general, what all the scholarships that are available in Australia. And in a nutshell, Australia is a great destination for students. I've been living here for the last 23 years now, and a great country, great weather, great opportunities for students, highly ranked universities. Students can work part-time if they wish to, and every student gets an opportunity to stay back in Australia for 2 to 4 years after graduating. So therefore, students will get to know a lot more about their options in terms of the courses, and also in terms of their options while studying and post-study during this education fair. I think it is a great opportunity for your students, because I've been in the industry for 22 years now, and I see a lot of students, they're always very puzzled what next and whom to go to, and who is a reliable partner, who are the reliable people who will give us the right guidance. So here the students will be hearing from the horse's mouth, talking directly to the universities, and hopefully they'll get a great counseling from the university reps, and also hopefully they will be able to decide on the next steps. So Ravi, thanks for organizing this. I think the students and the schools and your partners will really benefit from this opportunity, especially for students because of this lockdown. A lot of this event is online. It's a virtual fair, so students don't have to really travel to different cities and meet people. So, and also under one platform, under one umbrella, they'll be able to meet all the universities. So yeah, I look forward to this event, and hopefully we will get many of your students who are interested in attending this event, and hopefully we will all clear all their doubts, and students will be happy to meet the universities. And we should, and the good thing is that now Australia has a July intake and then a September intake, so students will not waste much time. They can, even if the borders are closed, they can still study online to begin with, and then continue their studies once the borders open. So yeah, that's a quick snapshot of the event, and this is the first one, so we hope to have more of these, and I'm sure everyone concerned will see value in these events, because I think students want to now have the convenience of getting counseled at home, rather than traveling from one place to the other. And this is a great opportunity for them to meet everybody without wasting much time from during this difficult times of COVID.
Certainly, and
So
thank you
yeah, that's
very
it.
much, Gagan, and I'm sure, I mean, there are a lot of educators watching us on our different channels right now. I just wanted to appeal that, or rather inform that the same creative that we unveil will be on our social media, and we'll also send out mailers. And the dates are 22nd and 23rd of April from 11 a.m. till 4 p.m. We may have a limited slots here because, there are limited university reps, I mean, there on the Zoom meetings. So I'd request you to float this to your 12th graders and have them on that particular day for meeting all of these Australian universities. And certainly, I mean, Gagan is our preferred partner for Australia, and he has been there since 22 years and a completely clean track record, and one of the largest, representative for more than 350 universities, as I mentioned. And I'm pretty sure that, a lot of your students would really benefit from this particular fair. I mean, studying abroad, I mean, or not, I mean, but still, I mean, gaining some more skill sets from these amazing people out there, that's also something which will add to their portfolio. So I urge you all that you please, share this particular creative as and when you receive it through WhatsApp or Telegram or our emails or our social medias. I mean, please share this with the relevant age group, and let's have these students on 22nd and 23rd of April with us. Yeah, Gagan?
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you once again for this opportunity, and look forward to the event on 22nd and 23rd.
Certainly. Thank you very much. And that's the end of our day 2 for International Roundtable for Educators. I hope you all enjoyed. The comment sections on our Facebook and our YouTube handles are open. Please do share your feedback, and you can also WhatsApp us, and you can also email, and let us know if there is any other topics, I mean, that you would want us to kind of conduct these online virtual webinars in the future. We'll see you on 22nd and 23rd of April for Australian Education Fair. And goodbye. I mean, enjoy the lockdowns in certain cities. And I'm going to rush to home. I've got to go. I'm going to drive to Gwalior to pick my daughter up. And we're very happy seeing her after 4 months. Thank you, and bye-bye.